Ladies and gentlemen, good evening and welcome to the Care Managers Inner Circle. My name's Jonathan and it's an absolute delight and lovely to see you here this evening. So tonight we're talking about, for all you care managers out there, we're talking about completing the PIR, the Provider Information Request. It's not much of a request, you've got to get it in. So let's make that clear from the very start. But tonight it's my pleasure just to go through, we're all mates here. I'm certainly not going to be presenting this as this is what you must do. You must fill it in the following ways. This is me just sharing with you some comments, some observations in terms of the content and some things you may wish to include. And why am I mentioning this? Is because I'm doing it exactly I'm going through it myself at the moment. So as I'm learning this, I just thought, well, sharing is caring. So let's all my buddies out there, let me share you this. But so get your pencils out, get your pens out. I've got my cup of tea here. Hopefully you've got your cup of tea there as well, or something stronger. Very nice indeed. I've got my fruity tea because it's after dinner. Tonight I'm just going to be going through this, but it's absolute delight. So for those of you who might not know, this is the Care Managers Inner Circle, which it is 3,500 strong, amazing care managers out there across the UK, and we're here supporting each other with our battle knickers up around our necks, and it's all about sharing is caring. So there's no promoting, there's no commercialism whatsoever on this site. It is purely about sharing. So it is lovely to see you. And if you're lucky, there's a bit of or maybe if you're unlucky, there's a bit of ukulele a little bit later on. So folks, once again, good to see you. So why is this important? Well, first and foremost, after a year where we've all been in our COVID twilight zone, the Care Quality Commission has relaunched the Provider Information Request. And that's happened at the back end of March. So they've already started issuing that. And so for some providers out there, that will have hit your inboxes. And I just want to go through that because it is a fabulous opportunity for you to showcase your service, to showcase your amazing services you're providing to your clients, and that's what we can focus on tonight. So effectively, you've got two camps. You've got one camp, and if the cap fits, one camp is very much, I've got to do a provider information requirement. It's a pain in the bum. I really wish I've got better things to do. And so let's quickly get it out as fast as I can. Let's put some text in those boxes, and then I can move on to the other stuff that's in my in tray. That's the first camp. And the other camp is identifying the absolute massive importance of this. And there's a golden opportunity for you to impress your inspector, to impress CQC, and to effectively start to create the conditions for a really successful inspection. And again, inspections haven't been going on for quite some time. But also the reason why these are being used is because the old comprehensive come in for 2 days, let's see what you're about, let's go through, show us your statement of purpose, show us your brochure, show us your accidents and incidents, show us your complaints. It's highly unlikely that is going to be the future of inspecting now. Instead, it's going to be targeted, it's going to be focused, it's going to be intelligence driven, and they're going to be using the PIR as their intelligence tool to do a deep dive into the areas that they wish to identify and wish to have more of an explore. So they're not going to be coming in with a big shopping list of all that stuff that you want to be doing and you should have been doing over the last year. So that's that. So that's, they're going to be using it as very much a part of their inspection tool or toolkit. But be quite clear, a judgment will be made on you when your PIR arrives at CQC, and certainly when your inspector starts to go over that. They will have an opinion will be based on you and also your organization. So tonight, I just want to go through very casually just some of the observations of the PIR. Today, you might have seen in the Care Managers Inner Circle, I've uploaded a load of reference material, which is super brilliant because let's face it, when you're filling out these things, when you've got 500 words to fill in a particular section, you start scratching your head thinking, what should I be putting in there? No, don't get me wrong. You can fill that with 500 words of absolute drivel. That's no problem at all. But I would suggest you probably want to be hitting some of the bases that they go, tell you what, you've got a provider here that's absolutely cooking on gas. You've got a care manager there that's quoting the right legislation, referencing the right things that we should be hearing, and they've got some of the buzzwords in there. So tonight, I just wanted to go through, sorry, as I remove the tea from my teeth, I just want to go through some of that. So we've got a few people on. Let me see. So hello, Louise. Let's see. There we go. They're saying hello, everybody. We've got actually there. Hello, Mr. C from sunny Essex. Good to see you, madam. We've got Heidi as well. Good evening, young man. I always like Heidi. Yeah, you can keep that up. Hope you've had a good day. Very good day. Thank you very much. We've also got Facebook user from Bonnie, Scotland, just in work. Sorry for being late. No, you're here, and that's lovely to see you. And there's our Danny, who we love very much. She's there as well. Now, how do I get back onto my? I'm here alone, so I'm just ready. There you go. Hold on. I've got different banners. There you go. There we go. We're back on again. Right. So let me just take you through. Right. There's some, first and foremost, just like everything with CQC, did you realize there's a guide? No, apologies if you absolutely know that, but did you realize there's a guide that goes through every single one of these questions? And let me just tell you, it tells you the sort of stuff that they're looking for. So before you start filling stuff about human rights and thinking that you know what they're after, it tells you exactly the list. It tells you about talking about inequality and diversity. It tells you about what they're looking for in particular box. So this is the absolute Bible. So I've uploaded that to save you all faffing around trying to find it. That is the front cover. And there you go. It says what it says on the tin, how to complete the provider information return. So there you go. So that's very much your Bible as you go through. But there is some technical stuff on here, and you can really make life difficult for yourself. First and foremost, open up a Word document. Well, what I did was I opened up so you get a unique, if you're the registered care manager, you will get a unique link. Follow that unique link. And then go through, and what I did was I put gobbledygook into all of the boxes. Stay with me on this, right? Gobbledygook all the boxes. Put some zeros in on all when they're after data in terms of numerical data, and that allowed me to get right to the back end of the return. I then printed it off so I know what's coming up, and that's what I printed off there. And I've uploaded those questions into the care manager's file section for you, because it'll save you a lot of faff, because otherwise you feel like you're being ambushed. You feel like you're going along and you're stepping on landmines. And so at least you know what's coming up so you can prepare for it. The other great thing as well is that you can hand this to your administration team, if you're lucky enough to have an administration team, and they can start filling in. There's a number of numerical, age ranges, how many people are CQC, how many CHC, etc., and local authority funded. So you can get someone else concurrently, because otherwise you've got to go through and then you've got to stop. You've probably got to save it. The other technical things is that if you get that link, so that is your unique link. It won't open anyone else's. It's already imprinted into your provider. So when you get that link, if you forward it on to a number of other managers or your deputy manager, and if you can currently start working on it, then it will it possibly won't save either of that information. So be very careful that one person at a time opens that link. It's restricted to 500 words in the text boxes. There are 10 text boxes which have a maximum word limit of 500 words. So in theory, you're looking at creating 5,000 words for this return, which seems daunting. And that's why I say you want to give yourself the full sort of 28 days. I've got 6 days now to get mine in. Hey ho, but I'll be working on that. So use all those weeks in order to, I wish I'd had this presentation before 3 weeks ago, but anyway, we are where we are. So 28 days to complete, and failure to submit is a major breach. You don't want to miss that deadline, so get it in. Right, bullet points for all of those might be writing in Word. So what we suggest, write it in Word, do your word counts, make sure it's within 500 words. Don't be using bullet points because it will not suck it into the free text box. It won't recognize it. So you go to all that effort and it'll be just wasted. Right, I'm now going to systematically go through this in relatively quick order. I want to keep this short and sharp. Right, the first one, this is the first one in terms of the big questions, is describe what's going well and the impact it's having on the people. There are a number of things here. So this is the first question. It's about the good stuff. Well, that's a great way to open a story, great way to open a book. Tell them, it's like anything in life. If you capture them by the throat, in the first paragraph of the most amazing evidence, then you're rocking and rolling. You're already influenced your inspector. So things is, what's working well? Use the key lines of inquiry, use the regulations, but certainly don't start to try and list all the key lines of inquiry. Just pick some good examples, some innovative best practice and service you might be delivering from each of those, or whatever springs to mind that you're particularly proud of. So it could be your communication now with your relatives and your residents, your staff initiatives in terms of training, safety. It could be working with care partners. It could be IT innovation. But the key to it isn't describing all that stuff. Anyone can describe that stuff. Fantastic. It's the impact that it has and the well-being of your service users on your clients. So what works well, but importantly, what is the impact on people? That is absolutely, it's got to be front and center. And the feedback from other people on, so the fact that you think you're doing fantastic is great, but more importantly is what other people think you're doing. So that's the first one. What's going well? Showcase it right at the very start. Rock and roll. Make sure you really impress the pants off them before they've even dived into that. But make sure that that box is just beautiful. Nice clean paragraphs, and stick it to maybe about 4 case studies where you're really proud of, with really good evidence. The next one is barriers to good care. And I just want to go very briefly through this. So in the last year, there's been loads. So instead of going, oh, we've got funding or whatever, there are loads of barriers. And I just want to show you, I just want to share some of these. So availability of GP support is one. Before the pandemic, we had the following. During the pandemic, that has pretty much dropped off, and therefore consultations now is virtually. Therefore, there has been an impact on the well-being of our service users and our clients because of the following. But what and each of these. So another one, clinical outpatient referrals. That has had an impact. So therefore, that's a barrier to delivering excellent and even high quality care. Another one, the quality of the information. The quality of the information prior to the pandemic used to be much better in terms of I used to go out and do the face-to-face referrals. That's not an issue at all. Now it's very much by trusted assessor documents. It's over phone. It's virtual consultations. So the quality of the information we're getting in some instances isn't as good as what we used to get before. So they're just a few of the barriers to care. You might even say the accessibility of the relatives coming in. Therefore, it's made an impact in the well-being, and still there is an ongoing impact on that. Etc. Availability of social care funding. So they're just some of the barriers. But the key thing, though, is that how are you now addressing it? Now, it doesn't say that. But if you then read here, it does actually go into saying, look, you can list all these things, but how are you addressing it? And so it's all right listing the barriers, but how are you going to address those barriers and reduce those barriers to excellent care? So moving on. The next few sections are very much numerical based, number of people you detain under the Mental Health Act, etc. So I'm not going to go through those. Right, restrictions and restraints. This was one which was really useful, again, using this, because I was thinking, what does it mean by restrictions and what does it mean by restraints? Well, when you go into the definitions, restrictions is stopping them from going out. So it's a lesser form of restraint. So restriction is stopping them from going out because they pose a safety issue or risk or challenge to themselves, possibly accompanying them. Therefore, that's a restriction because you've got to be with them in order for them to go out, or possibly taking away things from their immediate environment that could cause them harm. And that could be medication. It could be gloves, it could be hand sanitizer gel because they might ingest it, etc. Now, very different from restraint. Restraint talks about holding someone, so they might be thrashing out in terms of challenging behavior, and then holding their arms in order for them not to harm themselves or indeed a carer while delivering personal care. Bed rail, right? This is a surprise. Bed rails and wheelchair straps is a form of restraint. You might say, well, that's obvious, but I didn't think a bed rail would be a form of restraint, but of course it is. And also possibly using medication to calm them down in terms of using medication as a means of restraint. So there's quite a clear differentiation there. So when it's saying, you know, have you restrained anyone in the last year? Initially, I was thinking, well, of course we haven't. But of course, pretty much every single one of our clients, with the exception of maybe one, have bed rails because we're a nursing home. So suddenly go, well, actually, there's quite a few there. So moving then swiftly on. So people who use your service, equality, diversity, and human rights. And this is right. So this is 2.13. How do you make sure you meet the accessibility or accessible information standard? Now, initially, I just thought this is about large text, maybe a little bit of braille, maybe some talking books. That's how casually, when you think, oh, I've got to fill 500 words with that. Whoa, no! Before you dive down that rabbit hole and start to come up somewhere where you don't know, let me just show you. Right, there is, and I've uploaded all of this to the file section. This was legislation which was issued in 2015. In 2016, the likes of hospitals, etc., had to have a policy on making sure that all the information that they got and how they go about making sure that the information presented to a person is accessible. Well, of course, social care is only just catching up now. But when you read this stuff, it is really good. There are 5 stages to this. I'm not going to go through but I've done a little summary sheet, guys. How good am I? Because I needed this for myself. A little summary sheet, which I've uploaded there. Now that's about four pages of which I've cobbled together from the whole standard. There's about 60 to 70 pages of this standard. Right, this one here is what I've issued. That link there is the whole document, but it goes into, you know, the standard. So it says there are 5 basic steps which make up the accessible information standard. Asking to find out about what the communication needs of a person might have, and the information needs that they, you know, how to access that information, how to record, how to alert and flag, how to share, and how to act. I'm not going to go through all the detail, but that, and also the checklist. So that's how you fill 500 words. Start going through that, and you suddenly realize, well, we're doing that. But it also gives you a little action plan on the additional things that you should be doing. Oh my God, how good is this? But it was all in one of the references, which was highlighted once again in the booklet produced by CQC, and also by a bit of friendly Google. So it's all there. But it is great. It talks about how you make sure that the minimum font in anything you produce is font 12. It's sans serif, is because that's the best when it comes to being able to comprehend different types of fonts. It's written in plain English. You don't just describe people as deaf. There's a whole series of definitions. It actually, without going to, that's another story for another night, but it's really good, that sort of stuff. And I thought, right, well, we can make something of that. Right, so moving on. So that was the accessibility in terms of the information you're producing. Moving on. So what specific work have you undertaken? Is that the one? Yeah. What specific work have you undertaken in the last 12 months to ensure your service meets the needs of people using your service with protected equality characteristics? So, of course, these are the protected characteristics. And again, I'm not going to start rattling those off. But this is about your residents. It later goes on into your staff. Very simply, it is asking, do you have a policy? How do you identify your service use in terms of your clients, in terms of who, what do they breach in terms of, what do they meet in terms of age or disability or gender reassignment, etc. Do you have an action plan for that in terms of care planning? Are the rest of the staff aware, and how do you monitor that? So there are a number of things which are in here. So this isn't just about Pride and we have a Pride Day, but it's a lot more than that. It's about what other things in terms of action plans, disability, when it comes to, and some of that is already covered in the previous section there. So these are just a few bits and pieces. Safe to be me. Again, following the links which are already provided, and I found this on the CQC website. It's done by age concern. This is a great document. Now I've uploaded this as well. Here's my Alfie coming. Alfie, come and say hello. There is a dog in here. So safe to be me. There's one. So that's just one reference material, which again, if you start referencing this stuff, then it just shows you you're on it, you're referencing the latest guidance, and you're going the extra mile when it comes to that. So additional. Let's move on. Right. So 2.6, what specific work have you undertaken in the last 12 months to ensure the equality and inclusion of your workforce, and what impact has this had? Right. This one I really struggled with, because when you start thinking initially, well, this is just another equality and diversity. It's a lot more than that, because it's also now inclusion. And I was like, well, where do we start with that? So where's our, right. This here is, again, this is just following some of the links. I've uploaded this one as well. This is about improving equality, diversity, and inclusion in your workforce. So when you're thinking about what to include in that particular box, 2.16, this is what it's about. And this is about human rights. Now, I uploaded today into the Care Managers Inner Circle a little video which is about how is human rights. So initially when we talk about human rights, we think about third world countries, we think about torture, we think about the right of life, the right to have sufficient food. And actually, there's so much more to it than that. So let me just go through this. It's human rights. So human rights is applicable here, as of course anywhere in the world. But you initially think in terms of worst case, third world country, the right of life, the right of family, etc. So right of privacy, safety in the workplace, no discrimination. That could be pregnant, age, color, creed, sex, etc. The access to correct care, personalized for you. The right to join a trade union, fair wages, fair conditions. So this is far more than just avoiding torture or the right to life. And so in addition, it then goes into this in terms of inclusion, equality, diversity, inclusion in your workplace. So these are sort of things you can then reference. So going through, you can, have you got a policy, putting your policy into action, recruitment. So you can talk about how you recruit fairly, using inclusive techniques, training and development, religious beliefs and practice, dress code, parents who are on leave, flexible working. So you can see now that this is more than just equality and diversity. It's a hell of a lot more. And again, I'm not going to go, but all the details there. So, so how do you ensure your staffing is sufficient and in sufficient numbers and quality to meet the needs of those you care for? Right. This is about dependency tools. So make sure that in this particular section here, business continuity plan, make sure you do reference and include a dependency tool. And so that is available. So business continuity plan, the use of agency, how do you work in partnership with them, having an active and well-managed sickness policy and plan. How do you, additional overstaffing, mutual support between care providers, upskilling your workforce so that in the event of someone being off, other departments can. So there's lots of stuff you can put in there, not just about, well, we've got a relationship with a local agency. It's more than that, and we make sure our rota's filled. It's about business continuity, resilience, dependency tools, everything else in there. Practical examples you must give on how your workforce implements your human rights principles. I've gone through that actually. And I'm not going to say any more on that. But watch that little video. The video is really good because you go, all right, okay, I get it better than I previously did. Commission and partnerships. So this isn't just about listing off a big list of people that you do stuff with in terms of commissioners, tissue viability, dementia, district nurses. It's not about that. This is about yes, stating some of those organizations, but do you have, what's your communication plan? How do you work in a multi-integrated disciplinary team manner? What are the good outcomes that are resulting in a team cohesive group? What's the feedback? Again, you think you're fabulous, but that's, what do other people think of you in terms of feedback? So the more testimonials you can get involved in there. I move swiftly on. Quality assurance, risk management. Now, this is before you start digging into just audits. This one here is quite specific. When you go into the guidance, it talks only of infection control. Hands up, who's thinking about what infection control has dominated our lives for the last 18 months or 14, 16 months? Yep. So this is all about COVID and how you're keeping out your building, and and it's well managed. Well, here's a little tip for us all. If there's a starting point for us to start putting information in there, and it just says, how do you minimize the risk of infection at your service? Why not use the framework, the CQC own framework of the Adult Social Care Inspection Information Gathering Tool, that talks about your visitor policy, that talks about how you're shielding your social distancing whilst you're at work. How do you keep people who are admitted safely into the service? PPE, adequate access and taking of testing and vaccinations of your staff, the layout of your premises, the use of space and hygiene practices to promote safety, training practices, deployment. There's all your material for that for paragraph 6 and 6.1. It's all there. It's absolutely right. The final one, you'll be pleased to know. Thank God, he's going to shut up now. Right. Anything else not included elsewhere? So this is and finally, we're fantastic because here's some more evidence. And if you ever thought, here's some more evidence, here's some more testimonials, here's some more feedback, not from us, but from other people that think about our service. So there you go, folks. Let me just reiterate. The PIR, it is now on the streets. It is super important. Don't be one of those people that think, I've got better things to do. I'll throw 500 words of just absolute drivel into there without any thought or consideration. Really craft this, guys. Really take a little bit of time. Look at this in some detail. You've got some now content. Watch this back again and use some of that to furnish this really well for yourselves. They haven't just plucked out of thin air why they're asking that question, why they're asking a question on accessible information standard, because it's something that they want to see. How do you communicate? Do you assess your clients, and how do you make sure that you can communicate effectively both ways to them? How do you harvest their information and their views, and how do you communicate more effectively and appropriately so that gorgeous person in that bed that might have just had a stroke and is struggling in terms of being able to communicate? Folks, there we go. Good to see you. I'm going to see finally any comments here. Here we go. Tina taught me a reassurance verse. Oh yeah. We'll try to get Tina on tonight. Actually, makes you dig deeper to provide the outstanding hours. Looking at sports section, more fan provide. Great, guys. Look, and thank you, Danny. That's what we're about, guys. So look, have a fabulous evening. Go and have your little fruity tea or something stronger. Look after yourselves, and hopefully that helped. And we'll leave the ukulele for another night. All right, folks, good to see you. We will see you very soon. Take care, and good night.